Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our May 4th retiree chapter meeting. My name is Ann Friedman. I'm the chapter chair, and together with I should say, Vice Chair Diane Mena and Secretary Bonnie Nelson, and our staff support person, Jessica Marone. We are your chapter leadership. The speakers today are from the National Domestic Workers Alliance, NDWA. They are deeply committed to raising labor standards, amplifying the voices of care workers, and building a more just and equitable workforce where domestic workers are treated with dignity, fairness, and respect. I look a little jumpy on there. I don't know. Okay. They support domestic workers through outreach and know your rights training. I'm going to give you a little bit biography of each of them, and then we'll begin. Tatiana Bejar is a sociologist and organizer who works at local and international levels, focusing on the economic, social, and cultural rights of women of color and immigrant workers. She currently serves as the Director of Local Organizing Programs for NDWA. Tatiana also coordinates several domestic workers coalitions, including the New York City Coalition for Domestic Work. Jacqui Orie is the New York lead organizer for We Dream in Black with NDWA, where she directs advocacy and leadership development to build power among domestic workers. Her 20 years of experience working as a professional nanny without a contract, without lunch breaks, and without overtime pay for long hours inspired her advocacy for domestic workers' rights. So I think we're ready to go. Tatiana, I think you're first.
Thank you, Anne. And I'm going to invite my colleague Nayeli to start sharing the PowerPoint we work and prepare for you all. And while she does that, I just want to start by thanking Anne and Marcia for inviting us to this space and share our care stories and also to share the work we are doing. I also going to pass it over to, well, maybe I just do a brief intro. So yes, I'm Tatiana Bejar. I am the Director of Local Organizing Programs with the National Domestic Workers Alliance. I am immigrant from Peru. I've been living in the United States since 2001. And when I came to this country, I work as a nanny and also work as a restaurant worker, as a tip worker. I pay my studies through this labor and start working in different labor organizations and also human rights organizations. For me, being part of the National Domestic Workers Alliance is really a dream come through because it's very personal for me. It's part of my experience as a worker, as an immigrant woman, as a woman of color. And yes, also want to thank again, I don't know if Marcia was on the call, but thank you again for inviting us. I've been a long time an admirer of the CUNY professional staff, the retired chapter. I have a few friends, probably, I don't know if they are here today, but one of my first jobs when I was we were trying to pass a human rights bill in New York City, actually many years ago when Christine Quinn was the speaker. The CUNY professional staff actually was very supportive. We wanted to ensure that government operations and city agencies have internal policies and also internal regulations that will prevent discrimination based on gender and race. And I'm going to pass it now over to Jacqui to introduce herself, and then maybe we'll go to the next slide.
Thank you so much, Tatiana, and thank you so much for inviting us here. My name is Jacqui Orie. I am the lead organizer for We Dream in Black New York chapter, as was um, shared earlier. I am so thankful I get to work with domestic workers in New York. Having worked here for over 20 years, I'm originally from the island of St. Lucia and came up here to, of course, for better life, like everybody, who has migrated to this great nation has done. And of course, I did this work and I absolutely love it. And I am still doing care work because I'm caring for the caregivers who are part of our organization. I'm caring for my colleagues, to ensure that we take care of ourselves doing this work. So I'm so grateful and thankful for the opportunity to share with you the amazing work that we do at the National Domestic Workers Alliance. And I pass it back to you, Tatiana.
Thank you, Jacqui. And if we can go to the next slide, please. I can see the ways I can change a slide, sorry. So as we continue with our meeting, we will also, Jacqui and I would love to hear from you. I know there is not enough time to talk or introduce each of us, but if you could use the chat box in your Zoom and introduce yourself, we would love to see who is on the call. And we would love also to learn about what is your connection with domestic work or the care sector. Now, my connection, as I said, I was a nanny here when I came to live in this country, but growing up in Peru, in my parents' house, we always have a domestic worker. I grew up with domestic workers in my home who provided care to me and support to my parents. I am still in contact with most of them. I really know I love them and I appreciate the work. So when I came to live here, I reinforced my appreciation and the value of domestic work in our lives. So if you can share that will be wonderful. We will be reading through the presentation this afternoon. And so what we are expecting today is we are going to learn more about who we are, what is our work. Is something that is very important for us is understanding the history of domestic work. It has centuries, and we have, as human beings, dependent on care and domestic work since basically the beginning of humanity. We are not going to be that extensive. We are going to be focusing in just the last centuries to have a really overview of the work and the organizing. We're going to be talking about also NDWA goals and accomplishments, what our current national priorities, and you learn also about our local campaigns and the ways you could support advancing domestic workers' rights in New York City. And I believe we'll have some time for questions and answers at the end.
Definitely.
So next one, I can't find sorry, the next slide, please. So who is NDWA? So yeah, I'm going to provide, as I was saying, a broad overview. NDWA is, if we go to the next one, sorry, is the leading voice. Oh, let me see here if I can. Doesn't show. So, the National Domestic Workers Alliance is the leading voice for the nearly 2.5 million nannies, house cleaners, and home care workers. We work to win respect, recognition, and labor rights and protections for domestic workers. Domestic workers are skilled professionals, yet the work can be physically and emotionally demanding. Many workers often work in isolation behind closed doors in people's homes and can also log long hours to provide quality care for employers. Care work is, for us, at the center of our communities and our family life, and a cornerstone of our economy. It's the work that is done before any other work can be done. And when we are in moments of crisis, like for example, a tornado or a storm or a hurricane or a pandemic, or even currently attacks against immigrant communities, Still, caregivers, nannies, home care workers, house cleaners show up to do their essential work every day. When we see domestic workers, we always recognize these three sectors. Whether you see them on the streets, maybe in your own home, if you are an employer of a domestic worker, or maybe a neighbor or a family member. No, so every day, domestic workers for us are the nannies that care for our children, the house cleaners that bring order to our home, and the care workers that ensure our loved ones can live with dignity and independence. The majority of domestic workers sit at the center of some of our nation's most decisive issues because of who they are, of who we are, now of what we do. We are women, mostly women of color, immigrant mothers, and low-wage workers. They are impacted by almost every policy affecting the future of our economy, democracy, and country. We go to the next one, please. Oh, let me see if I can. Oh, yeah, now I believe I can do. Okay, thank you, Nayeli. So here is just a photo of when NDWA actually was created, and it was created in 2007 by 13 organizations representing low-wage workers, women, low-income women, women of color, immigrants. It was founded at the Social Forum in Atlanta in 2007. Maybe some of you were there and witnessed this historic moment. Actually, I was there, but I was not connected yet with NDWA. I was doing my first jobs on human rights in New York City, but later, just a couple of years later, I was actually connecting with incredible domestic worker movement. And do this. Oh, perfect. Our values, we believe in shared vision and clear goals. We value strategy. We value the collective leadership of domestic workers. We value interdependence because we know that we depend on each other. We value integrity because without integrity, we can really not build a strong, large, a movement of domestic workers. And we also value democracy, a democracy that really represents our interest, that is led by the most impacted people, because those experiences are the ones that need to lead this country. And after this, I'm gonna show you. So why we organize? No, this is a long fight. Domestic workers were excluded, were denied their rights. Yeah, so first through the Fair Labor Standards Act, when it was drafted in 1938, domestic workers were left out. So they didn't have protections or right to minimum wage, overtime pay, protections against sexual harassment in the workplace, and really against retaliation, etc. So domestic workers had to really start organizing for a long time to fight for these rights. Many domestic workers still do not earn a living wage. Domestic workers are 3 times as likely to be living in poverty as other workers. They work without access to health care. In many states and cities, they do not have basic days or paid time off. Now, we know that the history also of labor in this country, we don't even have paid maternity leave. We're the only industrialized country in the world that we do not have those kind of benefits or protections. Domestic workers, because they work in unique workplaces inside other people's homes, in private homes, it's really very hard to reach out to them. In big amounts, in large amounts, they are not in the public spotlight. But however, domestic workers take care of us, take care of what we value the most and the most important people in our lives, so the most important things of our lives. However, they still are one of the forces that is often least valued and the most vulnerable. So through this organizing since 2007, we continue building the movement, and we have grown. NDWA has over 60 affiliate organizations, all of them doing domestic work organizing, in addition to organizing other sectors as well. They are membership-based organizations. And as you see here in this map, they are basically in each state in the country. We also have grown, and NDWA has 6 chapters, are mostly in the East Coast, as you see. And also we have around 6 domestic worker coalitions in the West and in the East Coast, Connecticut. I mean, we have also California, DC, Virginia, Illinois, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts. Also, we have in Seattle and Washington. So we are a growing movement now of workers, and really excited to share with you this afternoon some of our history and our accomplishments. And as we are building organizations, we are also building our membership. So we have probably over 50,000 domestic workers, thousands of domestic workers who are being organized right now through our chapters, through our affiliate organizations. We fight to win more rights and to fight for those rights when we win, to ensure that we actually can exercise those rights in freedom and in liberation. And now I'm going to pass it over to Jacqui.
Thank you, Tatiana. This was a great backdrop of what we do at the National Domestic Workers Alliance. So I want to share with you a brief history of domestic work. So domestic work has existed for many centuries, and that includes cleaning the homes of the families we work for, cooking, caring for their children, supporting elders, and helping households run smoothly. It is some of the oldest and most important labor, yet has often been unseen and undervalued. In the United States, the history of domestic work is deeply tied to slavery. Enslaved Black women were forced to cook, clean, nurse children, as you will see in a slide coming up, and care for white families without pay or freedom. Their labor built wealth for others, while their own families were often separated and harmed. After slavery ended, many Black women continued in domestic work because racism, segregation, and discrimination blocked access to other jobs. They often worked long hours for low wages with little protection. In the late 1800s and the early 1900s, many immigrant women, including Irish women and later women from the Caribbean, Latin America, and Asia, also entered domestic work. When major labor laws were passed in the 1930s, many domestic workers were excluded from protections like minimum wage, overtime pay, and the right to organize. This exclusion was rooted in racism and the desire to keep Black women's labor cheap. Despite this, domestic workers have always organized and resisted. They formed worker groups, demanded respect, and fought for rights. And we think of leaders like Dorothy Bolden, who helped build the modern movement. Today, organizations like the National Domestic Workers Alliance continue the fight for fair pay, dignity, protections, and recognition that care work is real work. Domestic work is not just a job history, it's a story of survival, resistance, and leadership. Next slide, please. And if we go to slide 15, we will see, of course, this domestic workers have always been resisting. And we see there in that slide that we just annihilated, if you can pull it back. If you go, yes, and if you look, you can see that there is a Black mother nursing a white baby. And that was what domestic workers in those days were forced to do. They had to nurse the children of the families they worked for. And they called them, at that time, they called them wet nurses. Let's go to the next slide. And so we think of, and we spoke about it earlier, resistance and liberation. Domestic work. When we think of domestic workers in this nation and across the US, always fighting and advocating for respect, fair pay, and rights. We think of white nannies and household workers also organizing, especially when they faced low wages, long hours, and being treated like servants. Domestic worker organizing grew stronger over time as Black women, immigrant women, Caribbean workers, Latina workers, Asian workers, white workers, all came together to fight for dignity. And we have a clip, Naeli, could you play the clip? Yes, thank you.
In the late 1800s, Black domestic workers entered the labor market as free people, but the legacy of slavery remained.
They had to contend with a system that empowered white people to have control over them.
They were oftentimes exploited. If you can imagine only making like $8 a month for doing all of this grueling labor.
Domestic workers fought back, insisting that their labor had value.
They fought to establish parameters around their work by insisting on being paid a certain amount, by insisting on being limited to certain jobs. If they were hired as a cook, they wanted to be treated as a cook, not as a maid or as a child nurse.
Organizing often began with mutual aid societies, which women
Thank you, Naeli. I think, Tatiana, I turn it back to you.
I think we can continue, Jacqui, with the
Okay.
next clips.
Okay, so next clip, please, Naeli. Thank you.
Over the next few decades, inspired by a growing labor movement, domestic workers organized across the country. In 1919, in Rock Hill, South Carolina, striking domestic workers declared, "Let the white people learn to serve themselves. It will not harm them." In Denver, Colorado, 1,000 mostly Scandinavian immigrant women formed a union. They joined forces with the Industrial Workers of the World, a revolutionary union that sought to abolish capitalism. Their goal was to corner the labor market. Organizer Jane Street wrote,
"We actually have power to do things. If you want to raise a job from $20 to $30, you can have a dozen girls answer an ad and demand $30. Stick to your domestic workers union, fellow worker."
This tactic had its roots in the washerwomen's strikes, and domestic workers would rely on it for many decades to come.
And we will watch one more clip.
In the fall of 1933, the domestic workers went on strike, and they demanded higher wages. Employers were horrified. Some were so outraged that they tried to have one of the association's organizers deported, despite being a US citizen. The striking domestic workers had the support of several unions, including the cotton pickers, who had launched a massive strike of their own. The strike lasted several weeks until El Paso employers gave in to their demands.
Thank you. And I will just, again, I'm going to go back to why, irrespective of culture, the one thing all domestic workers had in common was the way we were treated and the way that society saw domestic workers as undervalued, work done by women, and that work was not valued. And as we saw all across the United States, again, domestic workers grew, and over time, Black domestic workers, and we think of immigrant Scandinavian domestic workers, we think of Latino domestic workers, Asian domestic workers, white domestic workers, all came together because they had they all had one thing in common: to fight for dignity, to fight for fairness, and to fight that their work, which makes all other work possible, is valued in the country and in the world. And so that is why it was so important, irrespective of background, they all came together for this fight. They pushed for fair wages, days off, protection from abuse, and recognition that caring, caregiving, and housework are real work. A major example is the National Domestic Workers Alliance. Of course, Tatiana mentioned earlier that it was founded in 2007, which brought together nannies from all backgrounds, all cultures, irrespective of their status, and home care workers across the country to win rights and protection. And I think, Tatiana, I should pass it back to you. Or should I go ahead?
I think you can continue, Jacqui. You want to close this with this slide and the Withering in Black one?
Okay, so I am still, I'm excited because I love talking about the work that we do at the National Domestic Workers Alliance, because it is such amazing work. It is such important work. It is work that ties our country together, but we don't know that yet. So NDWA in 2015, 2016, they put together this initiative called We Dream Black. And We Dream Black is basically, it exists actually within the National Domestic Workers Alliance because Black domestic workers have always been central to the history of caregiving work, housework, labor organizing in the United States. So from slavery to domestic work after emancipation, Black workers were forced into care work, underpaid, and excluded from many labor protections. We Dream Black was created to center Black women's voices, their leadership, and power within the larger domestic worker movement. It focused on issues that deeply affect the Black communities, including economic justice, racism, caregiving, voting rights, safety, and dignity. In short, We Dream Black exists with NDWA because Black women have carried this work for generations, and their leadership is essential to winning justice for all domestic workers. I think we've showed you all 3 clips, and the one thing I really want us to take away from this presentation is how valuable the women, the men, the families who do this work, whether they're Latinas or whether they're white or whether they're Black or brown, Asian, it didn't matter. It doesn't matter. The point is this work is such amazing work and such valuable work, and it's work that our nation, the United States, doesn't know that they need. And sometimes we don't know what we need until we get there and we recognize, oh my, I need a caregiver. I need a nanny. I need a house cleaner. And so we want to ensure that even as we present, that you leave here knowing that I want to be able to support this organization because they're doing such amazing work. My connection to domestic work is rooted in my own lived experience, like many others in the field. And that is why it is so important for us to continue to speak, to share, to tell our stories. And that is one of the things we encourage our workers to do, share their stories. So at some point, society will understand and will value the amazing women who do this work. And I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Jacqui, for those words and also for doing a quick, very a summary of such many years and decades of organizing and the struggling of women and domestic workers. So, and also the beauty of solidarity across races and origins, right? That actually put domestic work in a different level and created the conditions for us to continue with that work. And I'm going to be talking about goals and accomplishments, something that we have been accomplished in the last years, or the last, let's say, 15 years. And one is that we have been winning 13 state domestic workers Bill of Rights and 5 city municipal Bill of Rights. I'm going to go in a map and show it in a little bit. And a few years ago, also NDWA was able to introduce a national domestic workers Bill of Rights at the federal level. Unfortunately, this bill died out, and we will continue organizing to ensure that there is a federal domestic workers Bill of Rights. We have also got one executive order signed by President Biden to strengthen the care sector and improve conditions for care workers. There was a strong focus on care for older adults and people with disabilities, and also access to care for children. We have also been organizing 50,000 domestic workers, and through digital tools, we are in contact with around 200,000 domestic workers. And we do this so domestic workers know about their rights. They have the support they need if there is any cases of labor violations in the workplace. And also, if they don't know of any local organizations that they can being a member, or they can connect, but of course we connect them with the different affiliate organizations that we have across the country. We have also provide leadership opportunities. We create leadership opportunities for our members, and we have 3 worker councils winning NDWA with worker representation. We have a council for nannies, a council for house cleaners, and a council for care workers, and they help us guide and prioritize our goals and objectives of our work every year. Go to the next one. And here is something that is important for us who live in New York, is that actually the first domestic workers Bill of Rights, the first state one that passed in the country, it was in New York. That was 2010. From what we heard, what Jacqui shared with us, with also the exclusion of domestic workers from basic fundamental labor protections, domestic workers have to wait decades until there was a Bill of Rights exclusively for domestic workers. And this one, the first one in New York, you see here then was Governor Patterson, who signed on the bill with domestic workers, also employers were as well part of this victory. And it built really the path for other states to winning Bill of Rights to protect domestic workers in those regions, in those areas. In this, the New York Bill of Rights, it's very basic, let's say, but it was very important. Of course, included protections for minimum wage, paid overtime, protections against sexual harassment. It was very important then was legal protections for domestic workers who can take breaks and meals, and 3 days of paid time off. So this is really the very basic, but this victory helped us move forward, win more Bill of Rights, that actually have many more protections, many more progressive actually protections in other states. And we'll go here. And the latest state to win a Bill of Rights is actually Washington State. It was won in the beginning of March. And here is a photo with our affiliate organizations and their leaders and staff here with Governor Bob Ferguson, who signed on the bill at the beginning of March. So domestic workers continue to fighting for more labor protections. And as we know, the more we fight for labor protections, we are also building that path for not only domestic workers, but other workforces. Know that together we can really change and transform this country that is very anti-labor, as we know historically. And here is a map in which includes all the Bill of Rights we have won. Now, you see Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Jersey, city municipal like in Philadelphia or Washington, D.C., state Illinois, Virginia, New Mexico, Hawaii, California. We have also a municipal Bill of Rights in San Francisco, Nevada, Oregon, Seattle at the city level, and as you see, Washington State, which is the latest one. So through these fights, with these organizers, NDWA is supporting we are supporting our affiliate organizations, so they have the needed also funds, the capacity, all the logistic support, the technical support in developing a strong campaign. Now, with support from our also teams, we have an employment policy team, we have a legal team that also help draft these legislations. And as we see now, for example, the latest Bill of Rights in Washington State includes mandatory written agreements, includes protections against discrimination, against support protections for privacy. So many other provisions that the first Bill of Rights may not have, but through the organizing and experiencing all these victories, we have been able to develop really a strong Bill of Rights. And something that is really important for us right now is that we also need to have a clear plan in how we are going to implement and enforce domestic workers' rights, because we know that passing legislation, passing bills, passing labor protections, the fight doesn't end there. We need to translate that to actual victories in which workers, domestic workers, can go to work and they are not afraid to demand better working conditions. They are not afraid of retaliation. They are not afraid of the employers calling eyes on them. So this is the constant struggle that we have, is ensuring these rights are actually real for domestic workers. I can just also briefly mention that at the national level, our priorities are immigration. We continue organizing to protect immigrant workers in the care sector. We are also working with other organizations to build a pathway to legal status as citizenship. We also priority is to create more and good care jobs. for childcare and home care. We are at the local and state levels involved in ensuring that also there is universal childcare, that we are actually fighting to change the vision from our government, right, to ensure that this is actually a human right. Domestic workers, nannies, for example, they take care of people, for children in other families, but sometimes they struggle to find care for their own children. Similar if they have an older parent or a family member who have disabilities. It's hard for them to go to work if they need to care for their own family members. So everyone really deserves to have access to care. And we are working also as our priority at the national level to ensure that care is accessible and affordable for everyone. Our priority is also focusing on the great market jobs, which means more in the private sector, winning the care sector, right? And we are focusing on what we call it, our framework is awareness, compliance, and enforcement. This is a focus on the states and cities where we have won the Bill of Rights. However, there is still many barriers that domestic workers face in order to access those rights. And then we work in coalitions, we work with our affiliate organizations and our chapters to create a strategic outreach and education program so domestic workers get information they need, they have awareness and understanding of their rights and political education, and they win the confidence and they have the support they need to negotiate for better contracts, to negotiate for better working conditions. And we also work in partnership with Hand in Hand, which is a domestic employers network, to ensure that as domestic workers know their rights, employers know about their obligations. And this is really a key part of our work right now, because we realize that we need to strengthen our relationship partnership with government agencies that have the mandate to enforce domestic workers' rights. And we do this through strategic co-enforcement mechanisms, demanding public funds to invest in the care sector so domestic workers have the understanding of their rights, and that also come forward if they have to denounce any labor violations in the workplace. So this is a really important part of our work right now. And finally, we continue committed to create a real democracy in this country and a movement that is this change, not to change the core, the racist and the patriarchal and the classist structures of these countries that prevent women of color, poor people to lead this country. So we continue committed to protect our democracy or change it by organizing with domestic workers and other workforces, because we understand that also we need to fight with the rise of fascism in this country. And Jacqui and I we are also immigrant women. Most of domestic workers we organize are immigrants as well. And we see that in our own countries. The rise of fascism is not something specifically in the United States. Is really connected in through our countries, the ways that how we come here, how we arrive here, the reasons that we come here. So it's really important to fight imperialism, to fight capitalism, to fight all forms of oppression. And we do this by organizing domestic workers. And I can go to the next slide. And I want to take also a few minutes, and I think we are close to end our presentation. We are excited to have a brief conversation with you all, but I just want to share what we are doing actually at the local level in New York City. In New York City, we have a coalition called the New York City Coalition for Domestic Work. We are 6 organizations that part of it. is NDWA in their New York chapter, Adhikar, which is Nepali Tibetan Worker Center. We have Carol Gardens Association, Damayan, Filipino, also the only Filipino worker center in the city, La Colmena, which is also a worker center in Staten Island, hand in hand, and the employers, domestic employer network. So it's really 6 organizations that are doing incredible work across the 5 boroughs. We got together in 2021 during the peak of the pandemic because we realized we need to start fighting together at the city level. City council, we have a very progressive council members, we have a progressive city. That not necessarily, again, that means that domestic workers' rights and other workers' rights are immediately recognized. We need to continue organizing and fighting. No, there are 200,000 domestic workers in New York City, nannies, house cleaners, home care workers, which means that we have an estimate of probably 1 million households that depends on that labor. No, so it's a big part of our life in New York City and our economy. So therefore, we are asking one of our, can go the next one of our current campaigns, for example, and I was talking a little bit about that, is what happens after we have our rights recognized under the law. Right? We need to gain a commitment from the government to enforce those rights. And the government needs to work close with the organizations that actually have the trust and the connection with domestic workers in their own communities, who speak the same languages, who understand and know the strategies to reach out to workers who are in private homes and break that isolation. So we believe in a budget in the city that is a people's budget, a budget that really goes to ensure that we move domestic workers and other low-wage workers from being in the shadows to being in the front. And we need to do that by having our local government invest in the enforcement of those rights. So we are asking for $1.7 million to go to outreach, education, and enforcement of domestic workers' rights. And the government, the local government, I don't know if you guys are familiar with, for example, the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, the New York City Commission on Human Rights, MOYA, these 3 key government agencies that are working closely with us. We can enforce our partnership through these funds to ensure domestic workers actually know and exercise their rights. It is very important for us. This is a pillar of our work. The other campaign that we have, maybe you have heard of it, is the Raise Up New York City. We'll be raising the minimum wage in New York City to $30 per hour. No, in New York is the state that, let's say, have rules over the minimum wage. We are trying to break that because we know that New York City is becoming very expensive. It's almost impossible to live here, and the wages continue to be very low. So we need to change that. We cannot put all this inflation and economic crisis on the backs of low-wage workers. We also collaborating with current campaigns to ensure universal childcare for New Yorkers, and we continue supporting immigrant communities through rapid responses, collaborating with New York Immigration Coalition, Hands Off New York City, for example, and training domestic workers and also the employers, no, to be prepared in cases of emergency, to know what to do, how family preparedness, how to prepare and in case of ICE attacks in our communities. So this is what the New York City Coalition does. We mobilize also hundreds and thousands of domestic workers every year throughout the year. We would love for you to join us if you can. And I can go to the next slide, and I'll pass it over to Jacqui to tell us how can you support us.
Okay, thank you, Tatiana. Awesome. This was a lot of information, we know, and we don't have a lot of time left because we do want to answer some questions we see in the chat. But we just want to share with you that in order for any change to happen, we need to build community. And so today you're on this call, and I know you desire to help us. So we're asking you to join us on May 14th, and we will put a link in the chat for petition as well. So join us at City Hall on May 14th at 12 noon as we stand together for dignity and justice, and to support the rights for domestic workers and all working people. Domestic workers, as you know, they care for children, they care for elders, homes, and families, yet they face low wages. And so this rally is really a chance to honor the history of workers who organized before us, asking council members to support the budget. It's really, really important that we educate not just domestic workers, but domestic employers as well. So the whole community is being educated, but that cannot happen without funding. And so we're asking you to please support us on May 14th at City Hall at 12 noon to ask council members to please approve the budget. And also we will put in the chat a link so you can sign our petition to support stronger protection and rights for domestic workers. Again, it's on May 14th at City Hall at 12 noon. Thank you, and I'll turn it back to you, Tatiana.
Thank you, Jacqui, and we can also send that by email, and if you want to later share with the membership. And I seen some questions here. So we can start, or do we want to open the mic, and what do you prefer to do?
So we have a hand up, Mariana Peter.
Yes, thank you. First of all, thank you for this presentation. I really appreciated the poster that says $30 minimum wage. I think it would be great to, I'm somebody who hires somebody to clean every 2 or 3 weeks. And she's a member of the Northern Manhattan Coalition on Immigrant Rights. They have a collective of domestic workers. And they decided in the collective that $30 an hour was an appropriate wage. So she told me, which was wonderful. I know that a lot of women who are not organized are not going to feel they have the ability to say that, but it would be great to publicize that so people know what is a decent wage, what is a reasonable wage to pay. That's all.
Jacqui, do you want to answer?
And unmute yourself so you can moderate.
Yeah, I see that. I think Nancy's asking to remove the PowerPoint presentation, I believe, so we can all see each other.
I see people are eager to go to questions and comments, so we'll go right there, and then we'll thank you again when we're ready to turn the program over. Okay, Eileen Moran.
Okay. We in the retiree chapter are trying to basically figure out how we can support the No More 24 hunger, the domestic workers on that. And I guess I just had some questions about the roots of that, because technically those workers are organized. How could they, what is the background that allowed that you work 24 hours and only get paid for 13? I guess that's my question. Is that like written into Medicaid rules or something else? Or in part, well, that's the basic question. And also, one of the complications around domestic work, I think, is because people say, oh, it's part of the person is a part of the family. There is a way in which just the intimacy of being with someone on a daily basis, complicates this. And I'm wondering if, like the previous tradition where someone lived in, so then it was assumed that they had, in quotes, room and board, how much that might have undermined a living wage for those folks. And if there are stats, on your website or someplace else that could help us formulate a resolution. I mean, there is an existing resolution, but it doesn't say anything about funding, whereas we know that funding would be critical if we're really going to pay, basically the pay of those doing 24 would just about double because they're getting paid for barely just over half of their hours right now.
Thank you, Ellen. And maybe we'll take the two more questions and then Jacqui and
Okay.
I can respond.
Good idea.
Friedman
Orie Yellowitz?
Yes, my question has to do with the organizing of the workers. This is a very difficult area to organize because the workers are located in individual homes. And we know the history of labor organizing in this country is that when workers are in small units, as for example, they were in the garment trades and many other industries, it was very difficult to organize them because they were scattered and it was just hard to reach them. So my question is, how are you making an effort to reach the individual workers and bring them into your organization when they are scattered in so many small households?
And
Thank
I
you,
can answer
Lorraine.
that. And I can answer that. As a former domestic worker, I was actually out. I was in the playground with my charge when somebody came to me and gave me NDWA on a platter. I was excited because I was looking. And that's what we do. As organizers, we go out into the parks. It's really difficult. It's not easy because a lot of our workers are undocumented. A lot of workers are not trusting, especially in this climate. They don't know who ICE is. They don't know. ICE could look like me. And so it's really hard now. And one of the reasons that we're always asking for an increase in our budget is to educate the workers so they know what their rights are. And they know that NDWA is a honorable, integrous organization organized, established for them. So what we do is go out into the playgrounds, go out to the libraries, go out to events. We don't have a large staff. It's me for Black workers in New York and my colleague, two of us for New York. So it's a lot of work, but we are committed to ensuring that workers in the parks, libraries, playgrounds know who NDWA is, and that's what we do, outreach.
Okay, Lorraine?
I think Lorraine,
Can't hear you,
mute
Lorraine.
yourself. You are on mute.
Okay, thank you very much
Okay.
for your presentation. I love that history. It's so important and it reflects women's enormous contributions to the work that people do, and both invisible and visible in industrial plants. My question is that the news has reported that there's a hunger strike going on among some domestic laborers, and apparently it's the thing that Eileen alluded to, the no more 24. And we learned also that some of the established unions like DC 37, I think there's another one as well, are opposed to this legislation. So my question is, are there regular unions that are also organizing domestic workers, and how does your organization perceive them, and what do you think about this proposal, the bill, no more 24-hour labor for domestic workers?
Tatiana, do you want to take those questions?
Yeah, I can talk. So I want to be really honest with you and careful in responding to no more than 24 hours. At the local level, with the NDWA New York chapter, we have been supporting them and actually participating in some of the meetings. However, there are still very complex situation right now with this campaign because 1199 I think is opposing it. They are organizing, they actually are a union and organizing home care workers. It's specifically about home care workers. I'm not part of that because I work mostly on, it was the gray sector, so in private, in the private households, let's say, we can't send you, and you ask about that, and I ask my colleagues who have been working on more like the home care work, winning NDWA, and we can send like more like a proper, let's say, a statement of NDWA. We understand the concerns of the union that they said that then domestic workers won't be, or the home care workers won't be able to access overtime, and they rely in all this overtime to be able to survive. So it's very difficult to have just one answer. My answer is that we at the local level are supportive with our chapter. But we are not taking a stand, let's say, at the national level yet, because we're still in conversations with the union. That will be my short answer until we come with a statement, more like an official statement, I would say. Yeah, Nancy, and then I can answer a couple questions. And it's good to see you. You're on mute.
Yeah, I know, but they had to unmute me first. Thank you so much, both to Jacqui and to Tatiana. Great presentations. And Tati, it's great to see you again, even if it's just on Zoom. We keep promising a walk on the beach every year, and it hasn't quite happened yet. A question I have is about the new childcare, universal childcare efforts that the Mamdani administration is promising. Will there be any articulation between the domestic workers and recruiting them, maybe providing more education for them to get certified in order to work in these childcare centers? Is there any effort on the part of some of the childcare workers that are associated with the domestic workers to create childcare centers or to figure out how they can be prominent in this mix because they have so much knowledge and experience? Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy, for that question. I can briefly answer that, and I'll go with Peter and answer the other ones. And Jacqui, feel free to also add if you think I'm forgetting something. But it's been interesting, the conversation about universal childcare with our members, with domestic workers, in particular with nannies. Now, because of the recent ICE attacks in the city, some domestic workers are really afraid to go to work. They are working for fewer hours, but trying to make sure that they are safe. So they already have an economic impact. And so with the universal childcare, they were immediately thinking that now if it's going to be universal, everybody is going to send their kids to daycares, and then we are going to lose our jobs. That's the first reaction. I want to know. So because some of you have been asking about how do you organize them, how they become members, it's because we create the space in which their experiences really shape our also policy position, for example. So nannies were in the beginning very nervous about the universal childcare. We did a few focus groups. We invited the New Yorkers United for Universal Childcare organizer to provide a presentation to our membership, and that clarified a lot of questions and concerns that in particular nannies had. We know that people with money, wealthy people, like to hire nannies so they ensure they have the one-on-one care that they want for their children. We are also part of the campaign to make sure that when this childcare policy becomes real, there are priorities, right, in how to be implemented. We want to make sure that it's open for everyone. So as like some nannies may want to work in daycares, because it's not only about universal childcare, it's also about having this these jobs being good jobs with benefits and good living wages. And that's very important for domestic workers, because domestic workers, and I think someone in the chat said that they have like a housekeeper and a domestic worker in their home, and they know they have that relationship for years, and they were family. They were like family. And like that in my case, when in Peru, and many of you maybe, right? We feel like domestic workers are part of our family. But unfortunately, there is not, for example, any laws that will provide pension to some of the nannies or domestic workers. And many nannies end up retiring at 60 or 65, and they become homeless because they cannot afford where to live. Now, many of them are still undocumented, maybe still indeed immigrant women who have no access to some protections that will make them have a very dignified retire life. So I think just I want to make sure I included that. So I think these jobs that will be created through the universal childcare, it will be a good incentive for some of the nannies to work there. No. Also, we want to make sure that the family-based childcare that is very common in our communities, in many common winning domestic workers, like some a cousin or a grandma now have a daycare in their home, and they provide that care for other domestic workers or low-wage workers, like restaurant workers, women in the restaurant industry, for example, right, in the retail sector. No, we want to make sure that there is an investment, and they are not make more barriers or make barriers for them to access license, making sure that all these different ways of care or models, let's say, of care, are included in the implementation of universal childcare in New York City. So I don't know if Jacqui, something else you want to add, or that answered your question, Nancy. One of the things that I can say very briefly is that part of our work is also the workforce development. And we partner with Cornell Institute, the Worker Institute, for nanny trainings, CPR classes. So these trainings are really very important because this reinforce the skills of domestic workers. They are more prepared. They can demand better better wages in the workplace, and I think they will be ready and prepared also to go work in daycares if this is what they want to do.
Jacqui, did you want to answer Eileen's question?
Yes, I do. So she asked, what's in the Bill of Rights? And so, as you know, the Bill of Rights, the New York Domestic Worker Bill of Rights, was the first of its kind in this nation. It was passed in 2010 to give domestic workers labor protections. And so it covers overtime pay, so time and a half after 40 hours. And believe it or not, there are a lot of workers who work 50 and above, and some employers may not know as well. And that's why the education is so important. And that's why we're asking council members to please, approve that budget so we can educate domestic workers and domestic employers. So overtime pay after 40 hours, overtime pay after 44 hours for live-in workers. So after 40 hours for live-out workers, after 44 hours for live-in workers, 1 day of rest every 7 days, at least 1 day of rest. And however, if they work more than 40 hours, whatever they worked after 40 hours must be time and a half. The bill also includes 3 paid days off each year. But as you all know, working a whole year and getting 3 paid days is just not enough. Knowing how domestic work can be, it's emotionally taxing, not just on your mind, but in your body. So they need rest. So we always say to the workers, it's true the law says 3 days of rest, 3 paid days, but negotiate with your employer and get a contract. The sad thing is many employers do not want to give a contract. And so we're working on that part of it. It also includes domestic workers into the human rights law, and also ensuring that they have protection from harassment. Inclusion in the human rights law took us a long time, but it's finally here. And so we're so grateful that
domestic workers have human rights.
Okay, thank you, Jacqui.
You're welcome.
Peter Reines?
Yes, thank you very much, Tatiana and Jacqui, for the very interesting and informative presentations. I have a question. Most unions, including ours, which is pretty democratic and progressive, are still hierarchically organized. And I'm wondering if you have associations, I assume they're not traditional unions, have a more democratic organization, rotating leadership, assemblies that keep the leadership intact. That's my first question. My second is your relationship to Mamdani administration. Has there been an outreach by him and his collaborators with your groups? And thirdly, are you connected with the New York City Worker Cooperative Association that has a few thousand members? Are they interested? Are you interested in their experience? Are they interested in your experience? And are you connected with a major trade union movement, let's say like SEIU or CWA, that supports you in your demands? Thank you. Soft questions.
You want to take those, or should we get Francine's question first?
I can take part of it, and Jacqui, can you take the second part of the question? So, yeah, NDWA is different from the union. We have a different, let's say, structure. Someone also said how difficult it is to do outreach with domestic workers. So I just also, I don't know, I think Jacqui, you were able to respond to that question. We have, it's a non-profit organization, so we have our leadership, right? However, we have also a structure in which our members, through our chapters and through our affiliate organizations, that are more than 60 organizations, are represented in worker councils. And also they're part of our board. Now, the workers' councils and the part of our board, which is with involves domestic workers, they are the ones who help our leadership in design our national priorities, and the vision of the organization, the strategic, let's say, vision of the organization that normally goes like from 1 to 5 years, right? For the next 5 years. So we do have certain, the national level, ways in which domestic workers have a voice and a decision making. At the local level, with our chapters and affiliate organizations, is something very similar. Domestic workers come to a chapter through different ways of that reach, and they become members. Most of the organizations or unions, you become members by paying dues. We are changing that now. We are going to change that model of membership that towards, it's not going to cost anything. And the way you are a member is by being active, but being organized, but being engaged in the different ways and you can to change the industry, to improve the industry, from legislative policy to enforcement, implementation of all the different campaigns that we have. And we feel like we're close when you're talking about the new mayor, Mamdani. We just saw him on May 1st and his wonderful speech. We want speeches to become real concrete actions. So far, we are a little bit concerned about the reduction of the budgets of some of our city agencies that actually are working very close with us and also work closely with us to make sure that the enforcement of domestic workers' rights happens. And that's not only for domestic workers, there's really many other sectors. We are concerned that they won't have the capacity to do that work, that will have fewer investigators and staff that need to do this work. We still want to hear more about his plan for domestic work and the care sector. I know that he's an advocate and a champion for universal child care, but we want to make sure that, as he just started with his administration, that we want to work closely with his administration to create a vision of domestic workers and care workers for New York City for the next years. And I don't know if Jacqui, you want to add something? Oh yeah, tax the rich, exactly, Nancy. You're supporting that one too.
I just want to share. I think I can remember part of his question where he asked, "Are we connected to any unions?" And please correct me if I'm wrong. As you know, NDWA itself is not a traditional union. Of course, we partner with other unions. We collaborate with, for example, SEIU, right, around care work and labor rights. However, NDWA is not connected to any formal union because domestic workers work in different households. Therefore, they're not able to unionize, and that's why we organize. However, we still do partner with and collaborate when it comes to campaigns with other unions.
Okay, thank you. Francine?
I'm having problems with my Zoom now. I was curious about, as you know, many domestic workers are undocumented. So is there any, in your organization, any work, any path for them to become documented? So if they were going to be working for, in a universe as part of the universal childcare, I assume they would have to be documented. So how do you address these issues?
Yeah, I can answer that question, and Jacqui, feel free to also add. It's a very difficult one, especially now, right? We are almost in a defense mode right now. We mobilize, we organize to protect domestic workers where they live and where they work. As I was saying, people are very afraid. We hear of cases of domestic workers in New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, really in many places in which they are detained, or a family member is detained, and then their lives completely change. We are in the federal administration, the Trump's administration is not looking forward, supporting, and absolutely no path of citizenship, no for anyone except like someone with particular incredible talents, which this is part of being of the elitism, of also immigration in this country, that some immigrants deserve to come and other ones no. Although the majority of the economy in this country depends on the labor of undocumented immigrants, as what we were talking about, the domestic workers and care workers, for example. So we are hoping, as we were saying, our commitment is to transform this democracy, this system, towards one that's really the interest of low wage workers, of the people in this country are reflected in when we create policy. So we are hoping that as things are changing, we can really push elected officials, politicians, and parties as well, to make sure that they create some immigration relief or an immigration path, especially for care workers, because people are living longer, and people want to stay home, and they want to stay in their own community, and they need support sometimes at home, and that cannot be a privilege. That needs to be a right. And so and there are many care workers who are actually leaving the sector because they have no benefits. They're low wage workers, and they rather work in a different workforce, meaning that there is a huge shortage of care workers, care jobs in our country, and we are hoping this will change in the next years. I don't know, Jacqui, you want to add something? I see Joanne, and I know that we are running out of time, so I also want to be respectful, and I think you have another speaker
Yeah,
soon.
that's okay. We can answer this question, and we'll take Joan Greenbaum next, and then we can close up. Jacqui?
Yes.
You have to unmute.
Yeah.
That NDWA does support a pathway to citizenship for undocumented workers, as Tatiana mentioned. It is ongoing. It's ongoing, and NDWA went as far as ensuring that we have a federal Bill of Rights, which was championed by Senator Kirsten Gillibrand and colleagues in Senate, Representative Primala Jayapal, and in this also we are asking for a pathway to citizenship for domestic workers. However, it means fighting because, as you know, in the climate right now, with the fear that's going on and exploitation, it is really difficult for us at NDWA and for NDWA to continue to outwardly push, but we are not giving up the fight for a federal Bill of Rights. And also, one of the things that NDWA has done is supported the campaign that connects children, families, and dignity. In Texas, NDWA partnered in the Read Them Home campaign at the Dilly Detention Center. And I'm sure many of you may have heard about that, where children will read stories aloud to call for the end to family detention and to defend the rights of children to be safe at home with their families. So NDWA is always about pushing for the betterment for domestic workers, our members, whether they're members or not members. But yes, we are pushing for a pathway to citizenship for undocumented members.
Thank you. All right, Joan, I think you'll be the last question.
Okay, I'll make it simple, and so many thanks to both of you. Okay, we're a retiree chapter of a progressive union. Many of us are wending our way to really being old and probably needing care. Where do we, as a chapter of a union, start? What do you want us to do? Give us 3 things, and we're off and marching.
I'll let Tatiana answer that question.
So we want to add. I'm not sure what if whether you guys have like an insurance that can you can access long-term care. So I would probably figure it out. I know it's very complicated. It's, sometimes there are not these kind of benefits.
No, don't worry about us. What can we do with you?
Oh, okay. Okay, perfect. So we are a worker center, let's say, right? Our members are domestic workers. I will tell you and I will invite you to join hand in hand the Domestic Employers Network. They do something very similar as what we do. They do outreach to the employers of nannies, house cleaners, and home care workers. They talk about their obligations and responsibilities. They create opportunities of employers to be in solidarity with workers. For example, supporting immigrant workers, attending a company programs right now, family preparedness, joining some of the actions, being able to speak. We have opportunities to speak with elected officials. And we know that elected officials care about votes. So when they hear employers speaking in support of workers, that really brings a different, very powerful environment for worker-employer solidarity. So I will say that will be the first thing to do, is reaching out an organization in which you could be actively in support of domestic workers from your experience of someone who need care or will need care. Then together we are going to change this sector for someone that everyone really been able to access care.
I think you also asked us to show up on May 14th.
Yes.
12 p.m. at City Hall.
Yeah.
That's something we could do in the very immediate future. And also, I don't remember, but was a link to the petition. You have a petition going in the chat. We'll put that information in the next blast out to our members. Those are very concrete, specific things.
And I also want to share one more thing to what you said, Joan. We want you to share how important it is to get quality care. which means getting caregivers who are trained, becoming a part of an organization that supports caregivers and speak out on our behalf how important it is for you as a retiree who may need care in the future to support the organization that supports caregivers.
Thank you, Jacqui.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Tatiana and Jacqui, for taking time from your very, very important work to come and talk to us today. It's was a wonderful presentation, and my guess is that more than the few people we heard from today who are the benefits of of care work, whether it's children, taking care of children as a nanny, or taking care of an elderly parent, or taking care of us. It's such important work and so unappreciated, I think, that we really are very, very glad to have had you today and wish you the best of luck as you continue on this path. So I think we're going to have to close this part of the program. Thank you again, Tatiana and Jacqui, and good luck as you move forward. And we will do what we can. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much. We had a great time with you all. Getting to know you.
Okay. All right. Thanks. The next part of the program is going to be Liz Stevenson from Vote Cope to remind us how important it is to donate to Vote Cope and the kinds of things that our money is used for. Is Liz here?
I am here.
Okay.
Hi,
Hi,
Anne.
Liz.
Hi. I'm actually going to be sharing my screen in a minute, but hello. Thank you, Anne. I'm Liz. I'm a HEO at City Tech, and I am also the Vote Cope coordinator for the PSC. We actually have started calling it the PSC Action Fund. So I'll be calling it that in my presentation, but it's pretty much unchanged except for the name. We just thought it was a more self-explanatory name. And to get started, I just want to thank all of you for doing this work for this union long before me, creating a strong union that I get to benefit from, and also for being some of the most consistent contributors to our Action Fund in the time that I've been doing this. So thank you. So many of you, this will be familiar to you, but we do have basically a PAC as a union, right? It is a fund that is separate from union dues that we use to make political contributions. COPE is something that NYSET created, and it stands for Committee on Political Education. Our program is under the umbrella of NYSET's program, right? So your contributions go both to the PSC and to NYSET to do political work. Contributions are voluntary, and only members, retirees, and active employees can contribute. Regular union dues are not used for funding political campaigns or any campaign contributions. So that's why we have to have this separate fund. And as you're probably familiar, NYSET has, a big lobbying office in Albany. A lot of, their work is in doing campaign advocacy in Albany and also nationally, right? So their work focuses on all kinds of issues, funding for higher ed, in addition to K-12 issues. So sometimes there are questions about, what can union dues be spent on and what can't they be spent on? Typically, something like going to Albany for the New Deal for CUNY, we might spend money on buses or marketing materials, swag like PSC hats, things like that. So we can use our Action Fund money for that. We technically could use union dues for that kind of thing, right? But when we have Action Fund money, it frees up union dues for other kinds of spending. So this allows us to do things in a bigger and better way politically. One thing that we don't use dues for is direct campaign contributions. So that's another thing that we use this fund for is, endorsed candidates get money from the PSC at all levels, right? So whether that's a city council member, a state legislator, or congressperson. We also use this fund to support allied organizations. So we are an affiliate of the Working Families Party. We pay Working Families Party dues. We used to pay those separately outside of this fund, but now because we've increased our contributions, we're actually able to pay our WFP dues through this fund. So that's really helpful. Sometimes we make contributions to organizations like Make the Road New York, which is a big immigrant advocacy organization in New York, or other groups that are doing work with us, our allies. And we can use this fund to stipend members like myself who do political work for the union. So I have a 2025 chart on the next screen, but first I'm just going to show you 23 and 24. You'll see that our spending went up. That's because our contributions went up. So I've been doing this since 2021, and I have been working to increase the contributions. The main difference is, 2023 odd numbered years are city election years. 2024 even numbered years are state election years. So the pink in the first chart is contributions to city candidates, probably city council members at the time, whoever we were endorsing for comptroller or mayor or whatever, right? The blue was stipends, the purple was state election contributions, and the green was allied organizations. The big thing that changed in 2024 is that we started paying our Working Family Party dues through this fund. So that's why the green grows so much, is because our WFP dues came out of there. And then, of course, it was a state election year. So the purple is state campaign contributions. There weren't a lot of city contributions, et cetera. So you'll see, we went from, what is it, a little under 50K to a little under 82K from 23 to 24. In 25, we spent $147,604. We spent big on the campaign for mayor last year, right? So this green here, it still has our Working Families Party dues. It also had some contributions we made to what are called independent expenditures. So those are groups that were putting on ads and marketing and campaigning in two different ways. One was groups that were working to get Zara Mamdani elected, and another was groups that were working to make sure Andrew Cuomo did not get elected. So we make contributions to two different kinds of independent expenditure groups that related to the mayoral campaign. And so then that pink is other city contributions, probably to council member campaigns, possibly to, comptroller, public advocate campaigns, those kinds of things. And then we still have the stipends and a few state contributions. So we'd like to think that our big spending last year paid off. I think PSC leadership is very happy with the results of the mayoral election and feel that this was money well spent. And let's hope that that's the case, right? We're only a little more than 100 days in, but we're feeling optimistic. So many of you have longer memories than I do in terms of COPE participation. My sense is that in the 80s or the 90s, it was very common for people to contribute to COPE and even match their dues and give 1% of their salary to COPE. We're really working to improve. In 2021, we only had 990 contributors out of about 30,000 PSC members. So we're now, I don't have the actual final number from 2025, but it was definitely over 2,100 PSC members who made payroll contributions. And that doesn't include all the retirees who were also contributing last year, not making payroll contributions. So this is like a chart that we got from NYSET, right? You can see we were dipping down in the pandemic and we are on the upswing, and that continued to go up in 2025. I don't have 2025 on this chart, but we're hoping 2026 will also we're on the upswing. We are doing better. So this slide has a lot of text. I mean, I'm not going to go through everything here, but the gist of it is the main thing when we're talking about our political work as a union, really what we're talking about is advocating for funding for CUNY, right? That's almost entirely what this money is used for, is to make sure that there is a decent budget for CUNY in the city and the state budgets. So, at the city level, when we were dealing with Eric Adams, the fact that we had city council members who were fighting for us meant that things were not as bad as they could have been. And at the state level, Hochul has been, I guess, fine, certainly better than Cuomo, but it's not like she's some huge CUNY champion. She's not out there making her executive budget exactly what we would want it to be. And thanks to state legislators who are really interested in our work, we see better budgets than we would under just her. So that's why we think it's really important to be making these contributions. When it comes to things like the pension system, fixing Tier 6, which is a big priority of NYSEDS in Albany. These are things that we want to see changes for all members and retirees, and those things can only be achieved, unfortunately, by a full court press, right? Money is power in politics, for better or worse. Not that there's a quid pro quo, but it does matter when you have money to spend. So I should say the state budget is likely to be passed this week. I mean, it was due April 1st and we're still waiting. They keep passing budget extenders. They can't agree up there in Albany. So we don't know exactly what the state budget will look like for us. This is what we go to Albany and ask for. Well, this is what we asked for last year, and this year it was pretty similar. We're always asking basically for more full-time lines, right? Full-time faculty, academic advisors, mental health counselors. That's, part of our broad legislative package. The New Deal for CUNY includes those things, as well as making the first 60 credits free. So PSC, we go with the language of first 60 credits free, not free community college, because first 60 credits free will also benefit all of the students at the senior colleges at CUNY. So that's our long-term goal. It's not going to pass this year. Even though the budget isn't passed, I can tell you we're not going to get that this year. But we're going to keep fighting for it. This is NYSED's graphic on their victories, right? And again, they continue to work on fixing Tier 6 in different ways each year, saving SUNY downstate, increased funding for all higher ed, and then lots of things that relate to K-12 schools as well. I'm sure we all want to see high quality K-12 schools throughout the state. So I'm going to go to the PSC website. So for those of you who are retirees, which is I think most of the people here, if you're on the PSC website and you scroll down to contribute to the action fund, you will see that there is a page with all the information you need, right? So right here, if you want to mail a check to the PSC offices, you would just make it out to Vote Cope. That hasn't changed, even though we're calling it the Action Fund. Because it's under NYSED, we still have to call it PSC CUNY Vote Cope. So you can make a one-time check and mail it to the office. But this is an online form if you want to make a contribution online and you don't feel like dealing with your checkbook. So that's another option. And it's just a DocuSign form. So that would be another way to do it. And I should say that if any of you have a citizenship status that prevents you from making political campaign contributions, you should not contribute to COPE because this is the equivalent of a political campaign contribution. So I'm going to take questions now, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I see a question from Bonnie.
Yes. My question is this. For the past 2 years, there has been an option for those of us in TIAA to contribute via deductions from our pension or pension equivalent from our annuity. And I have tried to do this and said I want to make monthly contributions. And so far, nothing has gone through. So the money I wanted to give to Hope you're not getting it. And I feel bad about that.
Yes. Thank you for the question. I wish I could offer clarity on the issue. You said TIAA, and I actually thought it was people in TRS who were told that they could make pension contributions.
Right, exactly. Last year, I think it was in very small print, both TRS and TIA, they were told you can put down information. This year, very clearly, only the people in TIA were told that they could make contributions, which seemed backwards to me, but that's what they said, and so that's how I responded.
Very weird. So what I've been told is that for many years now, there were NYSET members who could make pension contributions if they were in TRS, but that it wasn't going to work for PSC CUNY retirees, and that they were working to fix that for PSC CUNY retirees. And then I've never gotten confirmation. Like, I have emailed, and I probably should follow up again, and I will try to, and I can get back to Anne or anybody else. But I've tried to follow up to be like, is this fixed now? And I've never gotten confirmation that it's actually fixed. So that's why I didn't mention it today. But if I
think you
find out,
shouldn't.
yeah, exactly.
This year, they very clearly had a separate section in bigger print saying we could do it. So I thought they had fixed it.
Yeah, sorry.
Glenn?
Glenn?
Yeah, hi. I live in Queens. My congressperson is Grace Meng. The only reason to vote for Grace Meng is that she's not a Republican. But other than that, nothing. She's being primaried by a guy named Chuck Park, who I've met. I'm holding up his brochure. He says he will fight for guaranteed free universal health care, funding of universal child care, taxing the billionaires, abolish ICE, and not voting to increase the military budget, which is already $1 trillion and allows Trump to do all sorts of crazy things. Grace Meng doesn't support any of these things. So, of course, NYSET endorsed Chuck Park, right? And that's Grace Meng. And the Working Families Party endorsed Chuck Park. Well, that's not true. They endorsed Grace Meng. This is so frustrating that NYSET and the Working Families Party will endorse candidates that don't represent the politics of many of the people sitting in this room. So it's just maddening. I have to tell you this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I hear you. I will say we are one voice when it comes to those endorsements, but we are usually outnumbered when it comes to the decisions that NYSET makes or the decisions that WFP makes. I guess I'm a little more surprised about WFP than I am about NYSET, to be honest. I think somebody recently at one of these sessions asked me, like, why don't we just separate from NYSET? And like, sure, in theory we could do that, but we are much more powerful as an affiliate of NYSET. And I mean, I don't know actually the history of us becoming an affiliate of NYSET, so maybe people here do know that history. But we have to deal with the coalitions that we've built. Part of being a union is building solidarity and collective action, and sometimes that means compromising in order to be part of a larger collective, right? So yeah, Erwin.
Yes. First of all, we joined NYSET in 1972 when we formed as a union. So we've been with them forever. And I agree with you, we'd be much weaker without them. But my question has to do with the mechanism by which you collect the money. Don't we have a mail order or mail campaign as well? Because I've been giving to NYSET forever. And I get a letter every year. This year, I think it was from Anne, asking me to contribute. And of course, that's how I contribute. So if you're a contributor, don't you automatically get such a letter, or is it to go to every retiree by mail? Or how is that done?
It goes to all the retirees, as far as I know. And yes, it's signed by the chapter chair, so Anne. And that is definitely a way to contribute. I'm here today in case people didn't open the mail or have other ways of learning things. So yes, any way that you want to contribute is great. And we're trying to get the message out in multiple ways. Joan? Oh, you're muted.
Okay. Yeah, this is the mailer that we got, and it happens to be sitting here next to me because all it says is you can either pension authorize what Bonnie was.
We lost you, Joan.
Yeah.
Or checks, we could just deduct it from the retirees page. So that's a new piece of information, and off I go after the meeting, and maybe there's thousands of more people who would just deduct it on the retirees page.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Cecilia?
I just wanted to thank you because I think this is one of the best vote cope presentations that I've sat through in many, many years. I think you're really working very hard at this job, and I think that's why we're showing such great advances in contributions. I really appreciate what you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cecilia.
Eileen?
Yeah. Thank you, Liz. I think I would echo Cecilia's comment about it. And I guess my question is, because you don't have the stats yet, because it's 2026, but are we spending for tax the rich? And I assume, is that then coming out of affiliated organizations?
Yes, we are spending for tax the rich. I mean, we are working with allied organizations. We sent people, like I personally went to a Tax the Rich rally in Albany, and I sat on a bus with other PSC members. So I know that was paid for somehow. I'm going to guess it came out of this fund. I have my Tax the Rich sign behind me, which you can't see. So yes, I'm sure. I can't tell you the specifics of exactly what's been spent, but yes, for sure.
Necessary. Thanks. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people in TIA that takes like the minimum distribution like in a lump sum. So for me, it's just easier to write a check. So that's what I'll continue to do. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't see any more hands. Thank you, Liz. Great presentation. Thank you for your work, and you're getting claps.
I appreciate you all so much. Thank you.
Okay. Great work. Thank you, Liz. Okay. I think Mike Foley is here. There's not
Yes,
much
he is.
time left. So, Mike, anything to tell us, or anybody have any questions?
Sure. And how are you? How's everybody
Okay.
doing?
Okay.
Great as always to be on with everyone. Wonderful presentation. That was really enjoyable. Don't have a lot of time. I just want to emphasize everyone should have received our benefit bulletin in the mail recently. We just emphasized again that the NICE PPO medical benefit plan, which is now the medical benefit plan for active CUNY employees, does not impact retirees in any way. Your drug coverage has not changed. Your dental, your hearing and vision, all your benefits provided by the fund are not impacted in any way by NICE PPO. Your medical benefits primarily remain Medicare and as your primary, and GHI Senior Care as your secondary. Just wanted to emphasize that. Couple housekeeping items. Everyone should have received their Medicare Part B reimbursement check by the end of last month, by the end of April. If you didn't, you can reach out to the city's Office of Labor Relations and ask them why. The most common culprit is oftentimes a address change or something along those lines. Keep in mind that if you're in IRMA territory, the IRMA checks come out in the fall. But if you did not get your Med B reimbursement check recently, give OLR a call and they can give you an explanation and hopefully cut the check. Happy to take any questions or any concerns.
I see Frances has her hand up. Frances?
Yeah. Thank you, Mike, for staying
Hi,
on.
Frances.
I was wondering if you were going to be there. I have a question.
Yeah.
10 years ago, I had bilateral cataract surgery, and you get the glasses after surgery. That's fine. And periodically, I've been getting new glasses. However, I got new glasses in September, but a month ago, one of my cataracts fell, which necessitated a reoperation on the one cataract. And I'm wondering if I will be eligible for glasses in a month or so, or do I have to wait till September?
So you got your new glasses when again?
September of last year.
No, you're good to go. The vision benefit is once per calendar year. So, yep.
Doesn't matter the month.
It does not matter. So get your cataract situation taken care of, then go back to a Davis Vision provider who I assume you've been going to, and then you can get a whole new pair of frames and lenses. Let them know the procedure you just had. They'll probably want to give you an eye exam just to double check things, but it's a once per calendar year benefit, so you're good to go.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Well, thank you, Mike.
Good. Oh, I also just wanted to mention that the fund is doing for the first time a very similar event to this one. On May 13th, we're doing an event called Ask Us Anything. You can join via Zoom and bring up any topics or questions you may have. It's both for active employees and retirees. I'd love to see some retirees there. We've been promoting it. On our website is the link is the registration for the meeting. If you go to psccunywf.org, the link to register for the May 13th session is right there. And I'd love to see some of y'all.
I see
Bruce.
Bruce.
I understand that this is about the time when the IRMA applications come around, and I'm
That's
wondering
right.
whether we have to. Do we search for that on OLR, or do you?
That's right. Yeah, the Office of Labor Relations website has all of the applications. So I'm pretty sure they've made the IRMA application available. It should be available on the website. And this would be the application for the 2025 year for IRMA, and you would get the check in October or so.
Bonnie?
I think Bruce had a follow-up question.
No, I'm just asking if we don't get a prompt, correct? We just go to OLR website and we look for the form ourselves.
That's right. Right at the top of the website, there's a couple of blue bars on the top. Just click on retiree, and the IRMA page and the Med B reimbursement page is probably the most popular page there. So
yeah, I know that as of last week sometime it was not yet there. I have not looked this week.
Yeah, it's right around this time. So just keep checking.
Yeah. Okay, and I did have a question, and can I remember what it is? No.
Okay. Well, Bonnie, you know where to get me.
Oh, yes, it's about the May 13th.
Yes.
Ask Us Anything event. So you haven't sent out email or anything about that, right?
I did send out an email. I did send out, it's in the latest benefit bulletin, and there's a notification on the website where you can register for, there's the registration link is on the homepage, right at the top.
Okay, I did not get that email. I never get emails from the
I'm sorry. I can look into it. But yeah, if you're interested, it's May 13th. It's from 5 to 7 p.m. It's a Wednesday, May 13th, 5 to 7 p.m. And the link is right at the top of our website.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Well,
thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. This is the last of our formal chapter meetings for the academic year. We are planning another luncheon on June 15th, again at John Jay, where the caterers promise that they will do a little better than they did at the last luncheon. We should be getting a notice about that fairly soon. The committee headed by Marcia Newfield and Marva Lilly has been working very hard to put this together and to see improvements over our last visit to John Jay. And we're working on a speaker. I'm not going to give the name just yet because we're not sure, but keep an eye out for that.
Perhaps Erwin wants to ask people who have any suggestions for topics for the next set of chapter meetings. Might want to send a suggestion to our website or our email address. And I would also like to put in a plug for the newsletter. That what we're hoping to do is include it. I'm going to have a summer issue, a slightly smaller, more focused issue for the summer for the newsletter. And we're going to focus hopefully on resistance as a general theme. And so we've asked, and I wanted to repeat that if you have attended the No Kings rally in March or the May Day rally that we just had on May 1st, and you'd like to tell us what your experience was, 2 or 3 sentences, and if you want to include a photo and you want to send it to our email address, that would be great. We're going to include a couple of those in the issue in the summer. And if you have any suggestions for issue or topics or articles for the coming issues in the fall, please also send those suggestions to do an article for us to the email address, the retiree chapter email, with subject heading TTP.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Marcia.
Do have a speaker for the luncheon, Ashley Dawson, our own resident climate guru.
Okay, so that's been confirmed?
Yeah.
Okay, I hear Ashley is a fabulous speaker. I have not heard him. But again, thank you, Marcia, for securing that.
Yes. So,
okay, folks. Well, make sure you contribute to Vote Cope, and hopefully we'll see a few of you at least some of you, at the rally on May 14th that Tatiana spoke about. And I guess we can put that information and the petition in the blast. Today is May 4th, so there'll probably be a blast before the 14th. Thank you all for coming, for your great questions and conversation. Are you saying something, Marshall? Because we can't hear you.
Connie has her hand up, although she's still muted.
Bonnie.
Constance.
Connie, sorry, Connie. I don't see Connie. Connie, can we unmute Connie, please?
Unmute herself. I've already asked her to unmute.
Oh, thank you. Okay, Diane, would you be interested in a short story for Turning the Page?
Send what you have in mind to us as a suggestion, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I know. I've been following the newsletter for years, and I know you haven't done it. And thank you. You've published a lot of my articles. I appreciate it. And I want to say what an incredibly good job all the staff of Turning the Page has. They're visually interesting, they're readable, they're lively, they're different, they're not didactic. Good job.
Thank you. And we do get a lot of hits. I mean, a lot of you are reading it, so we know that we're reaching people, but we always want you to contribute. It's your newsletter. We want people, all of you, to send suggestions to us so you can be included. It's your paper, not ours.
Yes, thank you, Diane. And
very generous, Diane.
And Mary and Peter are the co-editors of that.
And Joan and Dave Kettlechuck, Joan Greenbaum and Dave Kettlechuck.
Okay. All right, folks. Great to see you. Enjoy the summer weather. And hopefully we'll see a bunch of you at the rally and on the 14th and at the luncheon. Be well. Meeting is adjourned.